Carrie from Wrap Your Head Around Silks. This is the Expecting Aerialist podcast, now with the Digitant Network. How's it going, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in. Love having you. Before we get started, in the show notes, everything from Wrap Your Head Around Silks. Roll it out. We do foam rolling and using balls and all these tools that we have Monday and Thursday evenings. There's a full course, beginner to intermediate. What's wonderful is that all the 101 stuff is there and you have it for lifetime access. So if you're ever forgetting the base stuff, the foundational base wraps and stuff, it's a great resource. Aero rehab for if you're rehabbing back into your practice. And then, of course, I have a mini free course if you want to just check it out. All right, today we have Jessica Peterson back. She has with a partner, she has a motherhood and infant occupational therapy business in Austin, Texas. And she reached out because she's like, oh my God, I just got my tongue tie released and I got a hernia repaired. I'd love to share everything that I've learned. So I totally geeked out on this, and I hope you guys do too. She also talks about infant tongue ties and how it can be better diagnosed. All right, my friends, let's get started. You want Huggy now? Yeah. Okay, come here. We have Maribel's dress on as well. You just can't see it.
Oh, it's beautiful.
You know, we just averted a fort emergency. I made her a fort, and then she couldn't get her blanket that she was laying on, like, spread out, and that's what was so frustrating. Obviously.
Absolutely.
And so we just fixed it. You want to come sit with me? Okay. Thanks for your patience.
Oh my gosh, that's what we're all here for, right? I thought you did very beautifully, by the way.
Wait, what?
I thought you did very beautifully in that
thank
situation,
you, Dr. Jessica. Are you a doctor? You're a doctor. Are you a doctor?
I technically am, but they are not allowed to call me that in Texas.
You stop loving because it's too hard for me. You don't love me anymore. Instead.
You think that I love Jessica more than you?
Yeah.
Bean, that's not even possible. You came out of my body.
I think you should stop loving her.
I love you the most.
You cannot love everyone.
Yeah, that's where we're at, but we're okay. Crisis averted. It's gonna be fine.
She's gonna grow up to be someone absolutely amazing. I just know it.
Yeah, yeah. And your two, what ages are they now?
They're 6 and 8, so we're definitely like approaching actual human age, which is nice. But there's, bigger kids, bigger problems, right?
Do you ever have moments? I'm sure you do, but I had it last night because this week she's kind of wanted to do this in the past, but this week she's like, I want to sleep in my bed. And we never planned a co-parent, but that's how it went, and we got attached to it, like me and Asa did. And so now, I've been wondering when she wanted her independence, and it's starting to percolate, and I'm wanting to cry.
Yeah.
Do you have any moments like that recently where you realize that another step of independence is coming and you're just like waiting for it, but then you're like, ah!
Right. I know. Or they like say something that just like breaks your heart and you're like, what?
Yeah. Yes. Jessica has been here before. We talked about her business there in Austin, Texas. She is a occupational therapist with a focus on the perinatal and the postpartum stage. Do you want to reintroduce yourself to the audience, and then kind of what you do, how it's going, and then let's start into the update.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Jessica Peterson. I am a maternal and infant health occupational therapist in Austin, Texas, and I co-own a private practice called Matrescence Occupational Therapy here. So we see mamas and babies together in their homes, and help them work through all sorts of issues that come up in the first year of life and early motherhood.
Oh my goodness, it's like you've done that before.
I'm getting better. The elevator speech is hard.
How are you? How's business going?
It's growing. So it's slowly but surely growing. I think the hardest part has kind of been that people don't know where we fit in the space, and occupational therapy is not something that is commonly sought out for maternal health. It is for infant health, but I think that people still don't really know where OTs fit in there. And so it's just been a matter of kind of slowly getting more referrals from other providers who sort of work adjacent to where we are, getting more word of mouth out there. And I mean, it's been really, really incredible. We've gotten some really incredible referrals and have been able to work with a lot of families here in Austin towards all sorts of things. But the biggest has been just issues and challenges related to infant feeding.
Related to getting enough, like the breastfeeding, and then also getting enough nutrients in the baby. Are there a lot of, I mean, my friends who had problems with that and like low weight, it's so stressful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's just so many stressors around keeping this tiny human alive, and then your body needs to do it, and then also you physically need to do it. And even without breastfeeding, it's really stressful feeding an infant. So yeah, all that comes with that, transitioning from the breast to the bottle because we're going back to work, and then baby starts solids and kind of everything in between. There's just so much there, and the babies are so frequently changing, and the parents are trying to kind of learn and keep up with that. And it's just, everyone is doing this for the first time with this child, and it's a learning curve.
Yeah, and then for you as a business, I can understand how hard that might be because you're not just trying to market the product that you are, but then you're trying to convince people that they not only that they might need this product, but what is this product, you know?
Yeah, and what we've kind of done is that people want help feeding their babies, so that's not the hard part. If they come to us for that, then that's really great, and we can help them with that. But I think that what particularly mothers don't really understand in the moment, or they're not focused on in the moment, is like how they are associated with that and how that stress kind of affects the rest of their life, and how they can further support their baby because they're just really so focused on the underlying problem. So what kind of makes us unique is that we really see both mother and baby as our clients. We call them a dyad. And so our model is to really go into the home and empower the mom to be able to help her own infant, which is a little bit different than kind of traditional therapy where they might come in and work with the infant and then give the parent like a plan of care. We really work with the parent to figure out how they can integrate that in their day-to-day life.
So I miss that word holistic, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very, very holistic. And that's what's unique about OTs is that we can do a lot. We wrap our heads around a lot.
Okay, I love that. Okay, so Jessica reached out to me. I did not know, but it makes so much sense that you're friends with Sochi, who came on the podcast a couple weeks ago. How do you guys know each other? Just from living in the same area, or do you know each other before, or?
Yeah, so she was my very first trapeze instructor at Sky Candy, like 10 years ago.
Oh my God, amazing.
And has been instructing me ever since. And in the past year or two, she's been primarily instructing me in straps. So I see her like once a week.
Oh my God, this is amazing. Where do you guys do like a outdoor rig? How do you do it?
We either go to Sky Candy or I have a home rig, so she'll come here.
Jessica, how long have you been? I can't remember. How long you been doing straps?
Straps probably 2 years now.
2 years. You know who I just interviewed / he interviewed me is Aaron Cause. Do you know Aaron?
It sounds sort of familiar.
Yeah.
Does he teach?
Yeah, he's a straps coach. He's out of Montreal and he's got like a business that's kind of the size of
Oh,
mine ish. We're good at different things. And we just realized that we're siblings from another mother because, yeah, but like the whole straps world is smaller than the silks world. Like,
yeah, I can
yeah,
imagine.
yeah. Cool. Oh my goodness. Okay. So you reached out to me because you're like, oh, I just heard Sochi. And then also I've got a lot of updates. Can you dive into that?
Yeah, so actually, it's a little bit related because I started doing straps with Zochi, and it was because of my straps practice that I started going down this like rabbit hole to figuring out what was going on with my body that was affecting my aerial performance. Um, so basically, like for the past few years, I've just had a lot of tension, and it is like in my neck, it's in my shoulders, and I have like this habit of like throwing my head back when I'm trying to use my core. And I've never really been able to like activate my core very well. It's like really hard for me to find those muscles. And so because of my line of work, I've been doing a lot of deep diving into tongue ties and how that affects infant feeding. And on one of the podcasts I was listening to, there was an adult who was sharing her story of releasing her own tongue tie as an adult and how that was able to alleviate some of her neck and shoulder tension. And I was like, oh man, like that's really interesting. I wonder if that would be the same for me. Because I have always had a tongue tie. As a child, I knew I had a tongue tie because I just couldn't stick my tongue out as far as other people. Like it was just a thing. And then when I was about 20, I had it scissor released when I was under for my wisdom tooth extraction. He told me I would be able to kind of use my tongue to clean the inside of my mouth, like to get stuff out of my teeth easier. And so I was like, that's fine, do it. So he did. And I remember like coming home after that procedure, and I was 20 years old. And so I remember that I was going to try to eat some soup because you're supposed to have like soft things after oral surgery. And the soup that I had was like way too hot. And so I drank the soup, and because I was still numb, I like burned the crap out of my tongue. And what I remember from that time was the pain from the burn. Like I didn't remember any of the pain from like the oral surgery, like the tongue tie release, anything. It was just the burn was like so bad. And so that was that. And I never really thought about it very much. But then when I listened to this podcast, like, let's see, I'm like 36, that was last year. So it was 35. So it was 15 years later. I was thinking like, okay, I got my tongue tie released, but I still have a lot of restriction. Like I could see it.
In
And
your
I'm
tongue.
learning all about, yeah, in my tongue and also like in my body. And the tongue is like, so if you think about it, the tongue is in the very center of your body. And it's also a really strong muscle. And the tongue is basically attached to the bone in your neck that is attached to all of the muscles in your shoulder girdle, and it's right at the center of your body. So essentially, if you look at a map like of the fascia and the muscles that are attached to the tongue without like any of the bones or skin, it's like a whole long line. So it goes from the tip of your tongue all the way down to the tip of your toes. So people that have tension or like extra tissue underneath their tongue or really tight tissue under their tongue, they can actually, that can refer to like all sorts of parts of their body because it's like a chain effect. So what I started to realize is that when I had drank that hot soup right after my tongue tie release, that I not only burned the top of my tongue, I also like burned underneath my tongue, like where that new wound was. So I had created like a bunch of scar tissue down there.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, and that became apparent when I finally found a airway focused dentist who had done a lot of tongue tie releases in both babies and adults. And he took a look and he was like, "Oh yeah, there's a bunch of scar tissue under there."
My mind is blown right now. Oh my God.
Yeah, and I mean, scar tissue is just one type of tension that might be under your tongue. Like there's like basically it's kind of a fold of tissue. Everybody has it. It's called a frenulum. And so underneath your tongue, you have this connection from your tongue to the bottom of your mouth. And some people's frenulum inserts further forward in your mouth, or it's more or less like it has more mobility to it, or it's thicker or thinner. Everybody's really different, but sometimes
I'm like checking out my tongue right now.
You can see yours. Yeah. So if you like suction your tongue like this, so suction your tongue on the top of your mouth. Yeah, and then drop your jaw. You guys suction. There you go. Yeah, you see it popping out? That's your frenulum. Yeah.
Like, how do you like on yourself? How do you know if you have like what would be considered a tongue tie?
So the problem with tongue ties is there's no standardization for how they are classified. There's two main classification systems, and they're kind of the opposite of each other. And so really what tongue tied means is that you're having some sort of functional issue that's related to your tongue and how it's attached. And so with babies, usually that means they're having trouble with feeding, they're having trouble with, or the mom is having pain with like a breastfeeding latch, or you could have trouble with speech, or you could have trouble with like oral motor skills. In my case, I was just having a lot of just body tension, like a lot of tightness and discomfort. And I always kind of had that. So actually, I have to back up because before I went through this tongue tie thing, like in January, I also got a hernia repair. And I was listening to your podcast because I was like, oh, this is exactly where I need to figure out if this hernia repair is actually going to help my aerial practice. Because I had diastasis and I had an umbilical hernia, and I ended up getting it repaired in January. And after that repair, I definitely was able to access my core in a way that I had never before. So it was like, that's also like the center of your body, right? So it's like your abdominal muscles have been pulled apart. So your transverse abdominals can't really work efficiently because like the abdominals are like so far apart. And so mine were literally like stitched together and then reinforced with mesh.
Okay, so that's in your body right now. And so even like before babies and before pregnancy, you feel like you can access your abdominals better than before all that time?
Absolutely. Like I usually with hernias, umbilical hernias, it's like you're born with one and it just never closes, but then it makes it worse with pregnancy, right? Because you're having all that pressure. And then my abdominals were probably normal, but then with 2 pregnancies, then there's additional pressure and it pulls the abdominals apart. And then the fascia in between that kind of thins out. So basically, I would try to activate my core even before I was pregnant, and I just didn't have very good body awareness. But then after pregnancy, it was like I didn't know what it's supposed to feel like. And then also I just couldn't bring those muscles together efficiently. So I would like try to use my core, but it was like really weak.
So this is so interesting because you obviously went through all the education and stuff to help other people with this type of issue because you're right. And so was there a disconnect? Was there like a, oh my goodness, like I know intellectually how to do this?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, yes, I knew intellectually how to do it, like cognitively how to do it. But then it's like when people say activate your core, like you don't know how that's supposed to feel if you've never felt it before. It's like, I think I'm activating my core, but I don't know where in my body I'm supposed to feel it. And then I was just fatiguing really quickly. So like when I would like do like in a long hang and try to bring my toes up to the bar, I could barely get it like 45 degrees. Like I just could not access my core because you have to fold in that movement. And I was just like using my quads to like try to get my legs up.
Yes. Okay, so in the same vein of this, you said it earlier that you would try to throw your head back to try to use your core or try to do an inversion. I have so many beginner students who do that. Is this kind of like an answer to why?
I think that it's part of an answer to why, because basically like I'm throwing my head back because my body thinks that somehow that's going to help me, right? Like it's like, oh, I'm going to look where I'm supposed to go, but there's a disconnect. So like when you're like really tight, right? Like tight in the sense of the word where you want to be in aerials, you want your body to be connected. And when you're basically compressing, like your body has to like fold in on itself. Whereas if you're disconnected anywhere, then your head's going to go, but your body is not going to follow. And part of that was just habit, but part of that was because anatomically, I just like wasn't able to access like all my body together, if that makes sense.
So in a student who doesn't necessarily have like a congenital, umbilical hernia, which is, yeah, thank you. Like you have a very specific reason. But then there's plenty of students who are doing that same movement just because they have never found it.
Right.
How would you cue that person? Like being in your body because you felt that, like I've never had that problem.
Oh gosh, this is a question for Xochitl actually. And so the reason why this got better is because I found an instructor who knew how to cue people, and it was because I was working with Xochitl that I actually was able to learn how to activate my core. It was a combination of working with her because she has coached a lot of different bodies, and working with a pelvic floor physical therapist that taught me how to breathe. And that was really important. And I did that after the hernia surgery.
Is there any cue that, is there any cue that really resonated with you with that, solving that problem?
I think more just like bringing awareness.
Okay, got it.
So sometimes I tell Xochitl, like, just yell at me, like, head.
Got it. To be really aware of what your body was doing. Yeah, so Jessica, she has said right before we got on, she said, can you tell the listeners I have so many plans?
You do? That is so great.
Do ballet.
Yeah, we have a schedule.
Ballet plan and a clubhouse plan and a soccer ball plan and then a video game plans and then like taking care of my baby and then I
Do we have a plan to take a nap? Is there a plan for a mama nap? Because I could use one.
There's plans for playing plans.
Yeah.
You've got a future executor there.
Oh yeah. So how long did it take for you to recover from the hernia surgery?
I think that took probably a good 4 weeks, and more like that was like for basic recovery, and then to be able to actually start moving well again, it was probably 6-ish weeks.
That's really not bad at all.
Yeah, it wasn't horrible. It definitely was worth it, and I had been putting it off for a while and thinking about it, but yeah, I would recommend it if you can find a good surgeon, and it's wide enough to really be affecting movement or core stability.
How many fingers were you separated before that?
So I think it was about 2, but the thing is that I thought I had actually healed. And so it wasn't until 3 years after I had my second child that my OB actually told me that it hadn't closed back together, because I saw pelvic floor PT right after my second one, and they had told me that it closed, but I think that it wasn't really as closed as we thought it was.
Okay. Can we, my mind is blown with all this. Can we go back to your, okay, tongue tie and then shoulder pain? Please expand, because I'm like, what?
Okay,
What?
so we left off. I had gotten the clip, the anterior, which means the front of it clipped with scissors, and then I burned the crap out of it. And then 15 years later, I realized that I was still having tension, and so I thought maybe that it needed to be further released. So I found a dentist who was willing to do that. He looked in my mouth and he was like, "Yeah, you are pretty tied still, and there's a lot of scar tissue in there." Also, I wasn't able to open my mouth very wide. So ideally, when you open your mouth all the way and you bring your tongue up towards the roof of your mouth, it should go like past halfway.
Okay.
At least. That's like normal. Mine was going like maybe a third of the way up.
Okay.
And when your mouth is closed, your tongue should ideally be resting all the way up the top of your mouth, like against your palate. And you should feel it all the way around. You should feel it on the top of the tip of your tongue, should be like right, like there's two little bumps on your palate that are like behind your back teeth. That's where your tongue should be when your mouth is closed. And then even the back of your tongue should be all the way up against your palate. You should be able to feel it. And the back of my tongue was down because it couldn't get up there because it was tight. So he recommended that we go ahead and do like a laser release. So that's different than scissors because it actually kind of like evaporates the tissue.
Oh.
And it heals a lot nicer that way. And so I was planning to do that. But the problem with getting a tongue tie release is that you can release the tongue and give it more mobility. But if the tongue doesn't know what to do with that mobility, you're just going to continue to do what you were doing before. Like you're going to continue to move the way that you were moving before. And then your body just wants to heal right back. So in order for the tongue tie release to be successful, you actually have to train your body to move in a different way before you get it released.
Really?
Yeah.
So is that like PT beforehand or like strength training?
So yes and yes.
Okay.
And also other. So it's called myofunctional training or myofunctional therapy. And basically that means like it's about the muscles in and around the mouth and how to kind of train those. And usually it's a completely different training and certification process because it's so specialized. But usually a speech therapist, a physical therapist, or like an occupational therapist will have that credential. So I went to a speech therapist for about 6 to 8 weeks prior to work with her to try to figure out like how to train my tongue to move.
Okay, and what kind of things did you guys do? This is like fascinating.
So basically like moving the tongue in and around the mouth. So she had me like basically like take my tongue back far in my mouth and then like push it forward. Actually, it's a lot like aerials. So you know how when you're doing a single knee hang and you like want your student to like bring their like free leg like around like all the corners of like the free plane. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like a ronde.
So they're like in a single, yeah, and they have to like bring it all the way around. Okay, so that's what I have to do with my tongue. I have to like stick it out and push through the tip of my tongue. And then they can't see, but
yeah, you look like you're doing a really good like lick, like you're licking across. Yeah.
Yes. So it's a muscle, right? So you have to train those movements. Very similar to aerial though, because you need it to like push through the like most distal part of it. So like your toes, right? And like move it in different directions. So that was one of them. And then I also had to strengthen my lips because they were going to release a tie in my lips as well.
Okay, what?
So we also have frenulums in our lips and in our cheeks.
Yeah.
So we actually have, you feel them? So the one in my top lip was also kind of tight and kind of thick. And so when I like opened my mouth or when I tried to smile, I had a lot of tension through here.
Okay.
So I had to work to strengthen my lips and my tongue.
Okay. My mind is blown. Okay. Wait. Is this the type, and I think I know the answer because it's just like any fascia, but can it be stretched without a release? Could you also be like, okay, I could stretch this and don't have to have any surgical?
So there used to be a belief that you could just stretch it. But they actually have since done a bunch of studies in cadavers, and they found that the type of tissue that it is actually not very stretchy. So it's not likely that you would be able to actually stretch that tissue enough, the fascia enough to really make a difference in the range, because it's like a web and it's multiple layers. So if it's short or if it's thick, you could stretch it, but functionally it's not going to make a whole lot of difference. We don't have a lot, we need more research on actually how this all works, especially long term. But that's kind of the most recent belief, is that no, you cannot stretch it.
So it's so interesting with this research and studies, because like I was just talking to Aaron and he was like, yeah, there's not enough research in this and this and this. And I'm like, of course there's not, because you'd have to have, for every one of these questions that we have, you'd have to have somebody basically in a PhD, like devoting years of their life to figuring out if you can actually stretch the fascia in the mouth. Right? Like you'd have to have multiple people interested enough.
Right.
To get funding
and
for that too.
There'd have to be money. Exactly. The money part is like, there's not a lot of money in figuring out if fascia can stretch, right? Because like there's more money in figuring out if like tongue tie releases work.
Right. So maybe that would be like a chapter in the tongue tie book. Okay, so I want to get to the end of your story, and then I want to like extrapolate a little bit, because I don't know a lot about tongue ties for infants, and I want to like talk about that a little bit. Hey, did you almost fall? Oh my God, my heart just jumped, because I thought she was sitting on the edge of my chair, but she was standing. Oh my God. Cortisol just went up. Okay, so please continue. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay, where do we leave off? Okay, so I did the myofunctional therapy before the release, and then in December I had it released, and it was basically, he used like a CO2 laser to get through it, but because I had so much scar tissue, he had to keep stopping and like physically breaking the scar tissue apart so that he could go and laser it more. So it took longer than it normally would.
Was it just local anesthesia?
There was local, and then he put like the Novocaine injection in. Yeah.
When I was a kid getting like any type of like tooth stuff done, that Novocaine shot hurt so bad.
Yeah, so I was expecting it to, but I don't know what they used for the topical before.
Right, it was like
something really great, and I did not feel the Novocaine at all. So that part worked really great. They warned me that like when they were doing the release, the sensation that I might feel might be a pain actually through my neck. Which, because basically they're releasing the tongue, and then the tension in the muscles around the neck is kind of suddenly released. And so I don't know exactly why this happens, but I think it's because the body sort of rebounds in that moment. And I felt like this achy kind of pain through my neck when that was released, which was interesting. And then it did went away, but yeah. And then it was all done, and I took some pain meds, and I had stitches underneath. I think it was like 8 stitches. So my instructions were to just kind of let myself rest until those stitches fell out. And then I had to do the exercises that I had started with again.
You got it done in December, and it is now April. Please tell me your findings.
It's really interesting because a lot of things changed after the tongue tie release. So first of all, I have always my entire life been a jaw clencher. So I clench my jaw if I'm like excited or like stressed or, concentrating. And I also grind my teeth at night. And so I've used a night guard. After the tongue tie release, I could not generate the same force that I used to like clench my jaw. Like I couldn't reproduce it. And so it was almost like the tension that I had in my mouth was actually like holding me in position where I was able to kind of like clench down. And now I can't do it anymore. And so as far as I can tell, I've actually also stopped grinding at night.
So interesting.
So that has changed. And then the neck and shoulder tension, I used to just have it kind of was constantly there. That almost immediately went away.
Wow.
Because I would just it would just be really achy. And if I was kind of like doing things throughout the day where I was in one position a lot or like looking at screens a lot, I would feel a lot of tension. So that went away completely. And then, I lost my train of thought. There was a third thing that I was thinking of.
Anything in the front?
It'll come back to me. Anything in the front? Oh, yeah. So actually that was the third thing. So the third thing is that my posture used to be, my head was forward a lot. That's just where my head liked to rest. And if you look at pictures of me from high school all the way on up, I always had this forward head posture, and my head posture changed. So my head is now over my shoulders, and that's where it likes to be. And that, I think more than anything, has changed the way that I can engage my core during aerials, and also the mobility in different directions, because twisting, for example, is really difficult for me, for something like a flag. And now I'm able to do that a little bit better. I'm more connected. Before I was just so disconnected. My head was kind of disconnected to the rest of my body. And now it just feels more connected.
Dude, are you just also mind blown?
Oh yeah, this whole adventure has been absolutely mind blowing. I mean, nobody thinks about the tongue. Even as an occupational therapist, the tongue is basically, we learned that the tongue is used for feeding and eating and swallowing. And that's about it. We don't learn anything extra about the tongue. But the tongue it affects so much about everything through the body, but also it affects the way that we breathe. And that is a huge thing.
My myofascia release person, and I've learned this technique from her, there's a fascial bundle that's right, if you right in the center. What are these two bones? These are your collarbones, these two balls in the front.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, especially if you do a lot of pull-ups, it can get really, really tight right here. And then you can release it too. I wonder if that's how deep is the fascia that is connected to the tongue? Is it anterior, or is it more it's in front of the esophagus, right? Or no?
Yeah, because it's like the tongue is attached to the hyoid bone, which is like right here. It's like floating. And then the hyoid bone comes and it attaches to all of these muscles, like in your shoulder girdle and your neck. And so, yeah, it goes in front.
Yeah, that anterior neck fascia has always been so problematic for my own body in my aerial practice, that like now I've learned to release it in my body work practice, and then also the person that works on me. And even just like that vena cava line, like that what you're talking about, like she worked on me right above my pubic bone years ago. I thought I was gonna die. And then, of course, after pregnancy, it's so different because the whole thing got stretched out.
Well, right. And then if we think about pregnancy and motherhood, so all of our body is being drawn forward because we have all of this weight with carrying the baby. And then when we give birth to that baby, then that baby becomes a weight that is continuously growing that we're holding in front of our body. And so basically our shoulders, which need to be back here, get pulled forward. And then all of these muscles and all of this fascia tightens with that position. And then we're just kind of like stuck here. And then we're like on phones and devices and things like that.
Right.
And so it all just compounds.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you reached out because I'm so fascinated. And then so when you're working with infants and mothers, are there instances where they're having trouble feeding and you can very easily say your kid has a tongue tie? Is that an easy diagnosis to make?
It's not.
Okay.
It's not an easy diagnosis. And like more often than not, families will come to us because they're having difficulties with feeding, and they'll say, I saw my pediatrician. I saw the doctor in the hospital when I gave birth. I saw a lactation consultant. They all say that my baby doesn't have a tongue tie. But those people aren't necessarily trained in how to diagnose a tongue tie, and they're not necessarily trained on what questions to ask, because when you're talking about infant feeding, especially infant feeding that has to do with like a breastfeeding parent, there's another person in the equation. And so if that person is experiencing pain or discomfort with the latch, then that might be an indication of a tongue tie. But if you don't ask the parent, if you don't look at them, then you might not know. And that's a huge part of a diagnosis, is that there needs to be some sort of functional issue that is likely related to the tongue tie. And even then, even if you go and you release that infant who has a tongue tie, you're not necessarily going to see change because of those motor patterns. The way that that infant's mouth and body was moving is going to be the same before and after, unless someone is going in and working with that infant to retrain them.
And is that is possible?
Yeah, it's possible, especially for infants under 2 or 3 months.
Okay, so obviously the earlier is diagnosed and fixed, then the pattern isn't as established.
Yeah, well, yes and no, because babies develop the ability to swallow amniotic fluid at about 20 weeks gestation, and so they always had that anatomy that they're swallowing with. But the benefit of doing it earlier is that infants who are younger than like 8 to 12 weeks, they still have reflexes that allow them to suck and swallow and breathe. And so you can actually use those reflexes as therapy to get them to learn how to move in the right way. Whereas after that, once the reflexes are voluntary, then that's much harder and it takes longer, because then the parent has to facilitate that.
Oh my God. Dude.
It's a lot. It's a whole can of worms. Sorry, Carrie.
No. I'm geeking out on this. Okay. So, do you have any advice for parents out there who think that they, if they're just having feeding problems, like what questions should they ask? What if people are having check your own tongue, right?
I've been
Like, like I'm going to mute, but infants and adults, please tell.
Yeah. So I think that my best advice for parents is, number one, trust your intuition. So if you feel like something isn't right, then you're probably correct. Something isn't right, and find the person who is going to support you, whether that's related to a tongue tie or not. And then the second thing is, don't believe everything you see on social media. There's a lot of fear mongering and incorrect information out there, and it is coming from people from a variety of different backgrounds. And so you need someone who knows what they're doing, who specializes in your child's age, to actually be able to look at them and ask you the questions to figure out if a tongue tie is something that might be affecting anything. So that's my advice for parents. And then for adults, I think, pay attention to what your tongue is doing in different activities. So when your mouth is closed, your tongue should be up against the roof of your mouth, and it should be able to stay there. Your mouth should be closed when you're sleeping or breathing. You should be breathing in through your mouth. In through your nose. You should be breathing in through your nose, not your mouth for the most part. And your tongue should be moving around your mouth. And so if any of those things aren't happening, it's possible that you might be having a tongue tie, or your tongue might be tethered in a way that's not allowing those movements to happen.
Jessica, I so love that you were like, I have something to tell you, and your mind's gonna be blown. I love this, and I appreciate you. Let's put a pin in it. I feel like we might be doing more check-ins with you, just because you're so knowledgeable. I'm gonna come up with some different topics for us to talk about, and then put them in little boxes and try to do like podcast by itself. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you.
Jessica, I have so much fun with you. I'm going to have you on again. We can talk about many other topics because you are such a wealth of knowledge, and we're going to tap it as much as we can. My friends, if you would please honor me with a 5-star rating and a review, I would appreciate it so much. Check out Greener Grass, the podcast I do with Kelly McVeigh. So many empowering stories on that. So check that out. I appreciate you so much. Over and out. This is Carrie from Wrap Your Head Around Silks. This is the Expecting Your